grabbed a hold of me when I was preaching in Virginia. And I was walking through the woods. I had to walk about a quarter of a mile from where I was staying in a cottage in Richmond. And a big 6'7" black man come out from behind that tree, grabbed a hold of me and danced me around in that tree. I never danced so in all my life. And I'm saying, "Put me down, man!" He said, "You're schambach, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, but put me down." He must have weighed 300 pounds. Biggest man I ever saw. He grabbed me and hugged me. He said, "Brother Schambach, I've been waiting for this day." I said, "Will you loose me? I'll talk with you." And we talked. I was late for church. And he told me one of the greatest stories I ever heard in my life. He said, "I was a black Muslim." He said, "I hated every white man. I hated anybody that preached Jesus." And he said, "My mama came in your service in New York and stood proxy for me. I want you to know it works." And I laid hands on his mama and I said, "Sick him. If he won't come to you, knock him down and drag him to the foot of the cross." They arrested him, and he had 2 life sentences on him, and he wasn't even due for parole until 1990-something. I said, "Thank God they caught him." And that's what he told me. He said, "Thank God they caught me, because he said I'd have been in hell." And he said, "My mama gave me a Bible when I went into prison, and I tore it up." Don't give up, ladies. Hang in there. He said, "I tore that Bible up." So mamas are smart. Ain't nobody like mamas. And she knew what he was going to do, so she sent him a radio. Because he's in prison down there in Virginia, and she knows I'm on that Wheeling, West Virginia station late at night. And when prisoners can't sleep, they'll listen to anything. And he happened to he's telling me the story. "I tuned your radio on," and he said, "You made me so mad, I stomped the radio. Destroyed it." But he said, "Mama sent me a new one." Mamas just don't give up. And he said, "I was thrown in solitary confinement, and when I got out of there, I went back," and he said, "I turned that radio on." He said, "I don't care if he's white or black, I'm going to listen to him. When you're in that little old cell, pacing that floor, you'll listen to anything." And he said, "I started to listen to you preach." And he said, "I knelt by that bunk," and he said, "Something supernatural happened to me, and God saved me, filled me with the Holy Ghost and fire." And he said, "I wrote to your office," and he says, "Your office have been so kind, sending me Bibles and all kind of literature." He said, "I began a Bible study in this prison." And he said, "A revival broke out in the prison. Prisoners are being saved and healed and delivered and filled with the Holy Ghost." And he said, one day the warden came, and he said to me, called him by his name, and he said, "The governor wants to see you. He's in there with the parole board." He said, "Parole board? I'm not eligible for parole until 20 years from now." He said, "Well, they want to see you." And the governor happened to be in there, the governor of the state. He looked at him and he said, "We don't know what it is you're doing around here, but we want to find out what it is." He says, "The government sends us hundreds of thousands of dollars to rehabilitate prisoners." And he says, "We haven't rehabilitated one. And you're in here rehabilitating them by the hundreds. What are you doing?" He said, "Preaching Jesus to them. That's all." He pulled a paper out of his hands and he said, "I'll hold in my hand a full pardon for you. This ain't no parole, it's a pardon. But the pardon is conditional." He said, "There's a string attached to it." He said, "What's the string?" He says, "You got to come back in here twice a week until Jesus comes and preach the gospel to the prisoners." Isn't this beautiful? He's telling me this story in the woods of a camp meeting. He said, "Brother Schambach, you got a hold of some businessmen." I know you'll love to hear this. Dick Harshman, he's head of the Full Gospel Businessmen chapter here. And I knew some businessmen in that area, and I asked them if they'd help him One of the businessmen was a contractor, and when he came out, he gave him a job on contract and making $400 a week. Another businessman was a tailor. Tailor made him 4 suits. And another businessman is a builder of condominiums, and he put him in an apartment rent-free until Jesus comes. You listening to me? And I said, brother, pick me up and let's dance through the woods one more time together. That's what Jesus will do for you. You listening to me? The last time that I heard, that man is still going back into that prison preaching the gospel to men and women, and bringing Christ to them. What Paul said in 2 Corinthians, Paul said, therefore,